Hello, hello. I am so happy you're here today. A few months ago, we transformed our kitchen and we did most of it ourselves. So it is mostly a DIY kitchen renovation. And today I am sharing the entire kitchen makeover process from start to finish. We did basically everything other than actually removing the cabinets themselves. But you will see in the end, this feels like a completely new kitchen and I cannot wait to share how we did it all. So let's get into it.
Ready, putting on my suede shoes some days. You just gotta let loose, hit every street like a dance floor.
When we moved into our house over 2 years ago, we knew immediately that we wanted to renovate this kitchen. We really wanted to keep the cabinets and the layout because the cabinets were just in pretty good shape, not necessarily on the outside, but the inside of them, like they were very functional. And we just wanted to be able to kind of make the most of our budget. But with that being said, we did want to change almost everything else. So just to give you a little backstory, when we first moved in, most of the appliances didn't work. We ended up kind of changing those out over time. The cabinets finish was very worn and peeling in a lot of areas. And also the counters were very dark, so just not really our style. And the island itself was two-tiered. And so after 2 years, we finally saved up enough to make it happen. And it just was magical to kind of see this process unravel. The first thing that we actually did was to change all the hinges to soft close. Now our home is about 20 years old and these hinges did not close quietly or even all the way. A lot of them were actually broken. And if you go back maybe 30 seconds, you can notice some of the cabinets were not even closed fully, and that was due to the hinges. Now I also wanted to mention before we get really into it, everything that we used in this makeover will be linked down below. But if you have questions about anything, go ahead and leave a comment and I will be sure to get back to you and kind of answer any questions you might have. Okay, so the first big renovation was the countertops. Now before that could happen, we did need to level the island, and after watching this get done, we realized we definitely could have done this ourselves, but it was the first time doing a full-on kitchen renovation to this degree, and so we just didn't want to mess anything up. So for that reason, we kind of decided to ask for a little help on this part, but I'm sure that we will end up doing more kitchen renovations in the future, and so now we know that this is something we can absolutely handle. Now, in our previous homes, we have had single level islands and we have loved it so much. I love it for a lot of different reasons. I, one, just love the look of it, but I also feel like it's more open. It makes the kitchen feel a lot more inviting, and it also gives more of a modern feel. Now, I also feel like there's a lot of benefits to a single tiered island outside of just the look of it. It also will really maximize your workspace because now you have the bar area and your regular countertop area all combined. And so it really can make your kitchen a lot more useful. But let me know in the comments, do you prefer a single tiered island or a two-tiered island like we had originally? We knew going into this renovation that we may have to adjust the plumbing and also the electrical in the island because it was a little bit higher before. And sure enough, as soon as the top of the island was cut down, we realized, yep, we definitely needed to move that plumbing down. But thankfully it was a quick fix. And then later that night, Kyle and Luke actually went through and just patched the hole. We didn't need to do anything crazy because we're going to be covering the island a little bit later on in the makeover. But even just leveling the island, even though we didn't have counter on half of it, it just felt so much more open in this kitchen. finally, it's a countertop day. This is, I feel like, the day that we were all waiting for, and we actually shared over on our vlog channel the whole process of picking the countertops and lots of behind the scenes of this whole makeover. So definitely check out those videos. I will have that kitchen makeover playlist linked down below, so you can go ahead and check out kind of more details of this. But before we could actually get the new countertops installed, we of course had to get the old countertops demoed and removed. And the guys working on our countertops told us that the counters were originally installed with some crazy intense adhesive that they really never see. And so it made removing the countertops so much more difficult, and it ended up just making that process take a lot longer than they were originally thinking. And honestly, I feel like that just did not even surprise us at all, because we have heard that from a lot of people that have come and helped us with things in our house, or when Kyle and I do DIYs around our house, we have just felt that as well. Like, things are a little bit different in our house. I don't know what it is, but it was just kind of built in a weird way for some reason. Finally, once they got all the old countertop taken out, they went ahead and started with the install, which began by adding in this plywood substrate. And that's just to give support to the new countertop that they're going to be installing. And then they also had to put in our undermount sink. And oh my gosh, you guys, I just love this sink so much. I really love the single basin sinks. So this was so exciting for me to see it like actually getting installed. This was so surreal to watch them wheeling in our countertops. So we had actually gone to several different stone yards and looked at so many different pieces of stone. We looked into marble and limestone, quartzite, quartz, granite, like all the options. But immediately we were drawn to two different pieces. One was a marble piece. It was so stunning, but we asked if that was a good option for us. They ended up telling us very candidly, no. If you're gonna live in your house, marble's not really the best option because it is very easy to stain. It's not super durable. So that was kind of a bummer. Then we also looked at granite, but we felt like a lot of those slabs were really busy. We looked into quartz, and although it is no work to maintain quartz, it's less durable and it ends up being about the same price as granite. And then we found quartzite, which is the kind that we got. We actually picked out the one called Taj Mahal quartzite. It's basically as durable as granite. You just have to seal it like once a year, which we have already been used to doing that with our granite for the last several years. So that's really not a big deal to us. Another thing that you might notice, we actually extended the countertop on the left side to accommodate 2 more seats because we have a family of 5, and as it was, our island would only sit 4 people. So this way we are actually able to accommodate 6 chairs and 6 people, and we honestly eat at our kitchen island all the time. Also, another thing that we did love about the quartzite is that it is a natural stone, which I feel like anything that's naturally occurring in nature is just never really going to be out of style. And anything that we're putting in our house, especially that's very difficult to change, like a countertop, I want it to be something that's extremely timeless, that we're not going to be outdating our home or really not living in a couple of years. The next thing we ended up doing is adding in some new appliances. Like I kind of mentioned earlier on, several of our appliances really didn't work when we moved in. So for example, our dishwasher was rusted out and did not work when we moved in. So we immediately got a new dishwasher right when we moved in. Our stove actually barely worked. And I remember talking about that several times over the last 2 years, but only a few of the burners worked, and it would take at least 20 to 25 minutes to boil a pot of water. Like, it was just such a struggle to cook with that stove. So we definitely wanted to replace that, which we ended up doing that whenever they were installing the countertops. Now our fridge actually worked okay. However, we ended up finding a really good deal on our fridge on Facebook Marketplace. It was like barely used and like maybe a third or a quarter of the price new. So we decided to go ahead and change up our fridge. Our microwave was one of the items that also did not work very well. So we ended up changing that up when we did this renovation. And the last appliance is our oven. Now our ovens actually did work, but last minute we decided to go ahead and get new ones to match, just because the old ones definitely felt a little bit out of place, like they didn't match all of the other appliances that at this point were matching. And so we decided to get some new double ovens, and we're so happy that we ended up making that decision. The next step was to work on our island, not only to fix the issues that happened in demo, which is, fine, it's just kind of what happens, but also we needed to fix the pre-existing cabinet damage. You can kind of see around the cabinet there was peeling. It just was not holding up very well, and we weren't exactly sure how we wanted to fix that, so we decided to add in some beadboard, and that would solve the problem of covering up the damage that was there, and that would also give an upscale feel to the island as opposed to the traditional drywall that was already there. So to do this, we just got these really large pieces of beadboard from Home Depot. And a little trick, if you find something that's damaged at Home Depot, you can ask them for a discount. And they ended up giving us, I think it was like 70% off this beadboard, all because one of the corners was damaged, which was totally fine because we were able to cut that off anyway. But that can definitely help with the budget if you're able to find something like that. And then to cut it down, we just measured everything, put a piece of tape down just to keep the cut lines a little bit cleaner. And then we used a table saw to very carefully cut them down to the size we needed.
And when we're together, I hear music. You got me sing it out. Yeah. And it goes like, ooh la la. I like the way you move. I like the things you do. I like it when I'm with you. Yeah. Ooh la la. You got me feeling right. I'm in a better light. I like it when I'm with you. Sing it. Ooh la la, ooh la la, yeah. 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 Ooh la la, ooh la la.
You'll notice that we are not going all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom with the beadboard, and that's because we decided to trim it out with other pieces of wood. Now again, we did this for multiple reasons. One, it saved us a huge headache from not having to be absolutely precise with every single measurement. And it also saved us a lot of money because instead of getting only 2 panels out of one single board, we were able to get 3 panels out exactly and not have to have like really any waste. And we also love that it made this design more durable, and we ended up loving the look of it as well.
I like it when I'm with you. Yeah. Ooh la la. You got me feeling right. I'm in a better light. I like it when I'm with you.
Now, as far as the actual installation of the beadboard, we are just adding a few dollops of liquid nails. You don't need a whole lot, but this is just going to make it feel a little bit more sturdy on the wall. And then we are going through and just nailing this into the wall. The only places we're really nailing are the parts that are actually going to be covered by the trim. That way we can make sure it's very sturdy and attached, but it's also going to give a really clean look.
Baby, I'm in love with my best friend. The sky is baby blue whenever I'm with you, and I pray the good times never end. Ooh la la, I like the way you move. I like the things you do. I like it when I'm with you. Yeah. Ooh la la, you got me feeling right. I'm in a better light.
I also wanted to quickly let you know about a giveaway I have going on for another week or so. I'm going to be giving away $100 to a lucky subscriber. All you have to do is make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and then go ahead and comment on these videos right here. I will have them all linked down below. As always, all the information will be down in the description box as well. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so thankful for you, and good luck. If you DIY a lot, you already know this, but if you are kind of new to DIY, I feel like it can seem like a little bit of a shock just to see how imperfect everything looks during the process of DIY. Just because you see every step with all the imperfections, you just can't really avoid. But I will say, sanding it, caulking it, and painting can truly hide all of those imperfections. I remember seeing this a lot when we finished our basement in the Utah house. I felt like everything looked very imperfect, and And then once it was all finished and painted and caulked and all the stuff, it just looked amazing and perfect in the end. So stick with it and trust the process. Your imperfect DIYs will end up looking incredible.
Oh, the jacket got me thinking.
If you have been here for a while, you know that I love Facebook Marketplace so much. I feel like you can find so many gems on there. And these breakfast bar chairs, I actually found a set of 5 for $100 or $80. I can't remember at this point, but they were such a steal. They are super, super sturdy, very comfortable. And I love that they're made of wood, so it's not something that gets stained a lot or, anything like that. They're just very easy to maintain. The only thing about them is I didn't love the finish. It was just a very shiny finish, and I feel like it's not coming across on camera as well as it would in real life. But the wood also had a little bit of an orangey tone to it, and it just wasn't really the style that I was looking for as far as color. And so I decided to paint them black and then sand the seats down to raw wood. The sanding took forever, but it was so worth it, and I just love how modern they end up looking at the end. Once I got the seats sanded, I came inside to paint the actual chairs themselves. And of course, I am using Beyond Paint. I absolutely love Beyond Paint. I have used this product in several different colors, in several different spaces, in several different applications. I've used this on bathroom cabinets, furniture, kitchen cabinets, all over the place, and it works so incredibly well. One of my favorite things about Beyond Paint is that you don't have to sand anything, you don't have to strip anything or prep it really, other than just giving it a good cleaning. And you also only need to do like 2, maybe 3 coats. It just kind of depends, but it's just such a simple product to work with, and it also comes in lots and lots of colors. Now, while I worked on the chairs, Kyle just finished adding the beadboard to the edges of the outer cabinets, and we did that to not only tie the island into the outer cabinets, but again, to also cover the previous cabinet finish that was peeling a bit. Once I had painted the final coat on the base of the chairs, I went ahead out to the garage again and I just added some poly to finish off the raw wood on the seats, and you can see how much luster it adds to them. It just makes them look so nice and finished, and it's also there to protect it, so it's easy to wipe down and clean and just make this way more durable. But oh my gosh, look at that finish. That looks so, so pretty. I love seeing all the wood grain, just the raw natural wood. It looks so stunning, and it ends up kind of matching that dresser sideboard that you can see in the dining room. That's also a Facebook Marketplace find that I went ahead and flipped as well. And you're not seeing this at the moment, but later on, a few months later, I actually went through and changed up our dining room table, so that kind of matches more as well. This is kind of what I'm talking about, where the cabinets are really in good shape aside from the fronts, like aside from the finish on them. I don't know exactly what kind of finish this was. You can see there was just cracking everywhere. There was peeling on a lot of areas, but although the finish was looking a little bit rough, I knew that we would be able to salvage it, and there was just really no reason to replace all the cabinets. That was just such an added expense that we didn't have and also was not necessary. So instead, I just took a little bit of time. I went through and sanded any cracks and gave them a perfectly smooth finish so that they would be ready to paint. And then once I got that all done, I went through and just really cleaned the cabinets really thoroughly so that again there would just be nothing to do once we were ready to paint the cabinets, which if I remember right happened like the next day or two. Painting day was finally here. So a few days before, the painters actually came and took all the cabinet doors off, and they took them to their shop. They went ahead and painted them and let them cure. And then once the cabinet door fronts were all ready, they came back, taped all of the kitchen off completely, and then primed and painted the cabinet bases. So I definitely went back and forth for a very long time on what paint colors we wanted in here. I don't know why it's so difficult to pick a white paint, but I feel like there's so many undertones and so many shades and, you know, so many just slight variations that it almost feels really overwhelming. We ended up going with Benjamin Moore White Dove for the white, and then on the island we ended up doing Sherwin-Williams Evergreen Fog. That's the same color that we have in Kyle's in my office, and also that we have painted on our built-ins in the living room, and I love that color so much. I think it's so stunning. It's like a very neutral warm green color, but it does have gray tones in it, so it doesn't feel like a really bold in your face green that you're going to get sick of really quickly. But anyway, once everything got painted, I absolutely love the white so much. But because of the lighting, I have kind of been a little bit unsure about the evergreen fog color. And I don't know if I've actually shared that, but I really love it in all the other places that we have it. It's just such a gorgeous color. On the island, I feel like sometimes it looks a little blue, sometimes it looks a little darker than I would like. And I've just kind of played around with the ideas of possibly repainting the island a different color. I'm not sure where we're gonna end up with this, but I would love to get your thoughts on the island. Let me know, do you love that color? Do you think it always looks really nice? Or do you have a different suggestion for the island? We'll kind of see what happens with it, but that's just some thoughts I've been having. At this point, we are getting into the finishing work. We have the island leveled, we have the countertop done and installed, all the appliances are put in, now the cabinets have been painted, and we're just kind of doing the last final details. But don't let that fool you into thinking that these things are not going to make a massive difference, because they absolutely are. So the first thing that we wanted to do was actually to add in some above cabinet and under cabinet lighting. And we wanted to do this ourselves just because there are so many kits and so many ways that you can go ahead and do this for an affordable price, and also it's just very DIY friendly. So Kyle got these strip light kits. I will have them linked down below, but basically you can just extend them or shorten them as you need, and you just literally peel the tape off one side and attach it wherever you want, and it just plugs into the wall. And another thing that we loved about this is that you can actually change up the brightness of the strip lights, so you can really customize them to whatever your liking is. And also, this is something that we did in under a day. It did not take a whole lot of time. It was just overall a very simple and easy install. And then once we were done, we ended up setting it up with our Alexa. So all we have to do is tell our Alexa to go ahead and turn them on or turn them off. We can have them on a timer so they can turn on at a certain time of day, turn off at a certain time of day. It's just really user friendly and super convenient. Finally, it is time to install the backsplash. This has been one of the things that I knew would make such a huge difference in just making this kitchen feel absolutely finished. Now, of course, I had to make things a little bit more complicated than it had to be, and I went with a herringbone pattern for this. I really wanted to do that because our kitchen is just very square. It has a lot of squared off edges, and so I just thought it was really nice to kind of shift the angle and let it carry your eye around the kitchen. And again, I feel like it's a very timeless pattern, so it's something that's just going to withstand the test of time, which I feel like is so beneficial to do when you're adding something very permanent in your home. But overall, I really just wanted this backsplash to complement the countertop, but not compete with it. So we ended up going for a very simple and subtle tile. It's actually marble, but we love that the marble had that natural variation in it that kind of gave a lot of depth and dimension in the kitchen. But we also love that overall it was just a very simple stone. Like, there wasn't any wild shadings in it. It wasn't really something that stole your attention. It just only added to the kitchen. Now, as for the install itself, we just started at the bottom center of the wall, and that way it was just easier to maintain the design, and I consistently checked the levelness of each of the tiles because I feel like this is one of those patterns that if you start to mess it up and start to go off a little bit, it can very quickly start leaning one way or the other. Now, we also had started in the butler's pantry just kind of to practice a little bit so that if there were any mess ups, it would be in an area that wasn't as obvious, because this was actually my very first time tiling a backsplash. Kyle had actually done this in a few of our previous homes, but at those times we had really young kids, so I was kind of helping him a little bit, but he was really the one doing all of the actual tiling. This time it was nice because he was able to just stay out and cut all the things and make all the cuts that I was asking him for, and I was able to focus on really just installing the tile. This right here is an old intercom system that was original to the house. When we moved in, basically none of the pieces worked, so we have just kind of left it here on the house because we didn't want to deal with this big hole, but we knew we would work on it once we were doing this kitchen makeover. So at this point, Kyle went ahead and took it out and then just fixed the drywall around that. And he also wanted to remove all of this bottom drywall because this area was just really kind of messed up from all the struggle that happened with the countertop demo. So for that reason, he wanted to replace that part of the drywall, and it wasn't a really big deal because there was no mud or tape or texture that we had to do because they were all just going to be covered up with the tile itself. But the point of doing that was it gave us a really solid backing to tile on.
We both know it don't make no sense. When you go, I can't make you stay. So we live for the night and we fade in the rhythm. So cute to pretend. We both know it don't make no sense. And when you go, I can't make you stay. So we fade in the rhythm.
Once everything had had a chance to dry, we went ahead and removed all the spacers. You really want to make sure that you're cleaning your tile very, very well before sealing it. And then we just rolled on this impregnator sealer. We ended up doing 2 coats on all the tiles, and then right behind the stove where there's often a little bit more mess, we did end up doing a 3rd coat, but this went on really, really easy. And then once you let it sit for a few minutes, you just go through and wipe off any excess. This is basically the same process that you use for your countertops if you have a natural stone countertop, but you're going to be using a different product. So please do not go use the same product on your stone countertop, but just know it's kind of that same process. Like you put it on, let it sit for a little bit, and then wipe off the excess.
Let's get away and take a drive. Together as we go. No other way I know. Together as we go. No better way I know.
Now, once we let that sit overnight, the next day we went through and grouted everything, and we just did a light layer of grout. We didn't choose anything dark or really contrasting. We wanted it to kind of blend into the tiles. And this is definitely something that you can do just on your own. But I will say it does go a lot faster if you have one person grouting and the other person wiping away any of the excess. And then once we got everything grouted and we went back and made sure we didn't miss any spots, we just went through and caulked the bottom, and it looked incredible.
Let's get away and take a drive. Together as we go. No other way I know. Together as we go. No better way I know. Together as we go.
Grouting the backsplash was not a hard job at all, but it was just one of those kind of time-consuming, tedious things. I think the hardest part about it was just that we knew it was the very last step, and this makeover had just lasted for, you know, kind of the last month. And so it just kind of honestly felt a little bit surreal. Like, I remember the feeling when we finished and we were pulling all the paper off the countertop and wiping it down for the last time, knowing we weren't going to be making another DIY crazy mess in here. It felt very hard to believe, but it also felt so amazing. And now every time we walk in our kitchen, every time we look in it, it's just like a sense of pride that we did all of these changes, and we really just ended up creating the kitchen that we wanted, the kitchen that we spend a lot of time in as a family. And I am just so incredibly grateful. When we first moved into our house a few years ago, we thought we were going to be doing this kitchen like within a few months of moving in, and that's definitely not what happened, but this was 1000% worth the wait. Stay tuned to see that before and after. I feel like this kitchen is just light years away from where it started. All right, you guys, that is everything that we did for our DIY kitchen makeover. This happened in a matter of several weeks, so it was definitely not overnight, obviously. But we took this dark kitchen that was slightly dated and definitely in need of a little extra love, and we transformed it into a kitchen that is bright and airy and way more functional and extremely welcoming. We did everything from changing out the hinges to cutting down the island and making it one single level. We installed those beautiful quartzite countertops across the entire kitchen. We changed out the sink and added in that matte black faucet that just added to that modern feel of the kitchen. We also changed up our kitchen island by adding in that custom beadboard work. We upgraded the old appliances that didn't really work anymore. And I even changed up our old bar stools into something that really fit the space better. Of course, you know, we painted everything. We painted those kitchen cabinets that white dove color, and then the kitchen island, that evergreen fog. We added in that cabinet lighting that added a lot of warmth and brightness to the space, and finished everything off with those beautiful marble subway tiles in the herringbone pattern. And we just could not be happier with how everything turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you lots of ideas if you're working on your own kitchen makeover or have plans to start one. If there was anything that you would have done differently or anything that you would suggest in the future, I would love to hear your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.